I wanted to show you how to prepare a very simple particle mix. You can use this mix at any time of year, but it's particularly effective during the winter and in the early season because it doesn't contain much in the way of protein, and protein is hard for carp to digest when the water temperature is colder. So the main ingredient for this mix is going to be wheat, straight from the agricultural centre with a 25 kilo sack. This stuff doesn't cost a lot, especially when you buy it in bulk sacks, and it's whole grain wheat. I'm going to scoop it out and I'm going to put a litre of it into a measuring jug. There we go. Right, we're going to have to find a big pan. 1 dry litre of wheat. Before we can use this for carp fishing, we have to soak it and then we have to cook it. It's dry at the moment. We're going to add water to it to soak it, and it's going to swell up. So you need to make sure that you're using a big enough pan because the volume of this is probably going to triple actually. That was 1 litre of water. Then I'm going to add a 2nd litre. So in volume terms, we've got a litre of wheat and 2 litres of water. And after you've given it a bit of a stir, you can see that some of the chaff floats to the top. You can fish some of that out with a little sieve, because if you leave that in your mix, it will just float. You're just adding extra things to the water, to the lake, that you really don't need. It's no good to the carp, it's no good for the water. So we're just going to leave that to sit on a cold stove for 24 hours. There's no heat under it, it's just lidded on, and we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to cook that up. So the wheat has swelled up somewhat, but still a bit hard, so we need to cook it. So at this stage we can also add a bit of salt to the wheat. Just adding some salt to any particle just helps bring out a bit of flavour. And the other thing that I'm going to add to this is some garlic, because the great thing about wheat is that it absorbs flavour. Carp absolutely love garlic, and it actually does them a lot of good. Garlic is often used for animal feeds, but the carp are going to eat this garlicky wheat, and the garlic is going to go through the carp system, and it actually is going to start leaching it out of the skin in a very, very small quantity. But this leaching through the skin helps keep the parasites off. So cold water at the moment, the carp are spending long periods of time just lying up, not moving, and all those little parasites hop on board these carp, and if there's too many parasites, then it can actually kill the carp. So things like argillus, leeches and lice, all of these things. So if we can get some garlic into the food that they're eating, then the carp are going to be happier and healthier for it. Right, so let's have a look at 20 minutes. Yeah, there we go. All the goodness from the grain just comes out nicely under the pressure of my finger. That's the sort of thing I'm looking for. Right, let's have a look at what we've got. So this is all nice and cold now. That's crushing. I can feel the oils actually coming out the garlic. So we've got a slightly oily, slightly garlicky, and man, oh, that's proper garlic wheat. That is. Absolutely reeks. Fantastic. So we've just made this really easy for the carp to digest. That's what cooking does. Just like we cook our own food to make it easier to eat, by cooking the carp's food, it's easier for them to eat. And if it's easier for them to eat, then they're more likely to eat it. There's no point in leaving any of this garlic in here, because that garlic's only going to float. So I'm just going to pick that out. Now, just out of interest, I want to see how much volume we've got in the cooked rice. So we started off with a litre of dry. So I want to see how many litres of cooked wheat we've got. That's 2 litres. So I'm going to pour some of this juice off, because if this wheat dries out, then it's not going to be any good. But for freezing it, I want to get the water out. So I'm just going to set this liquid to one side. So we finished up with about 2.2 litres of cooked wheat. We've got a litre of garlic juice. Basically it's almost a garlic stock. This is not going to be thrown away. I'm going to freeze that separately. Now obviously if you're prepping for a big fishing session, then you probably want to take all of that and put it into your spod mix, but I'm going to split it into a couple of Ziploc bags and freeze some of it so that I can just kind of eke it out over the session that I'm doing, because I don't need all of that. And it's fresh food, it's going to go off. If you just leave it in a pot or leave it in your bivvy, after about a week it's going to be a bit rancid. So even as it is, it's a very simple but attractive carp mix, but we can make it a bit better. So if you want to sling a few more extra ingredients in, then go for it. There are no rules really. I'm just going to put some 1 or 2 cans of sweet corn. You don't need any fancy sweet corn for this. I'm just going to use the maize dew, which is regular sweet corn. You don't need the extra crunchy stuff. I reserve the extra crunchy stuff for using as hook baits. But as is, we'll just empty that can in there. I cannot open a can of sweet corn and not remember my early fishing days back in Pittville Lake in Cheltenham. Takes me right back. There we go. Can of corn. 1 can of corn's plenty for that. So what have we got here? We've got a bit of tiger slush. If you've got a bit of this stuff, then get it in. If you haven't, then don't worry about it. Anything like this is a nice little addition to a mix. The other thing I love to add to any particle mix, if I can, is some hemp. Now, as it is, we've got 4 different ingredients there, and that's a really nice carpy mix. Now, I want to add some cereal pellets to this to soak up some of that liquid, but I want to make this mix split over a couple of days. If I put all the pellets in there, it's going to dry up the mix basically. So I'm going to divide this bucket in 2, and I'm going to add a scoop of cereal pellet just as a bulking mix. So there we go, 100% vegetarian mix. Cereal pellets in there as an optional extra. So how am I going to use this mix in my fishing? Well, it's not a PVA friendly mix, so there's no way that I can put this inside a solid PVA bag or PVA mesh. That's going to go horribly wrong. You could spod this, you could spawn this, so if you're into that sort of thing, then that would be a great mix for doing that. You could use it in a bushwhack or a baiting pole. You could also apply it with a bait boat, of course. If you're fishing to a far margin and you've got access to that margin, then this is a great mix to just scoop out, spoon out from the bank with a simple bait spoon. One thing you can do, if you put your wet mix in first and then put some dry pellets over the top, you don't need many, the pellets are there for a bit of extra attraction and to protect the rig. And what this enables you to do, is you can put the rig in, leg goes in the front there like that, and you can still use a little PVA mesh bag just to help the descent, control the descent, add a little bit of extra attraction. And it's the pellets that are preventing the particle mixture from melting that PVA. And if you've got any juice or liquid you want to put on, that's just a bit of the matching plume juice there. Just get it on that bag. It's just all about getting some extra flavour. But if you don't sit the PVA mesh bag onto some dry pellet, you're going to melt the PVA mesh bag. And the reason why I want to put the 2mm pellets in a PVA mesh bag, 2mm pellets are very light, and I want them down on the spot. I want them around my rig. I don't want them floating over a wide area. These 6mm pellets will go over a wide area. That's fine. That's what the particle mix and the pellets are for. But the little 2mm pellets, highly attractive, right over the rig. So that's how I do it. So this garlic wheat mix has been the backbone of my fishing this winter, and I've done really well on it. It's a very cheap bulking ingredient. Carp absolutely love it. I know they're eating it, and it makes sense to use it in my feeding program as well. There's loads of juices, loads of flavours in this. So I'm going to mix this cooked wheat with some dried pellet, and that dried pellet is going to suck up all that oily, garlicky goodness, and it's just going to help get more nutrition into the carp. You can see the liquid content there, and if I were to just pour that in, all that goodness, all that nutritional goodness is just going to go into the water, and it's not going to get into the carp, which is where I need it to be. So this is a standard bucket of our feed pellet. It's a 7mm cereal pellet. This is 24% protein. Combining this with the wheat is going to make a really tasty nutritional mix for the carp. And I'm just going to spoon that in. 4 spoons, that's probably about a 50-50 mix. You can see the pellets are already nicely glazed up with all that garlicky goodness. There's some salt in this mix as well, and carp absolutely need salt in their diet just like we do. I'd have absolute confidence fishing over that mix. You could fish a bottom bait, a pop-up, anything like that. Small boilie works really well. I've been using the 12mm citrus over this, and I've not put hardly any boilie in at all in the mix, just 2 on the hair, little tiny mesh of citrus pellets as well, but the bulk of the mix, 99% of the mix, is just this stuff. Yeah, I've been spicing it up with some tinned sweet corn, some ready prepared hemp as well, all good stuff. But if all I had was yeah, a couple of boilies and this mix, I'd be very confident of catching over it. It's just a good tasty mix and the carp will love it. Now, as a feed mix or a fishing mix, the pellet alone is plenty good enough, or the wheat alone is plenty good enough. But the problem is, if I just use the pellet breaks down relatively quickly. By having the wheat content in there, even when the pellet breaks down, the whole grains of wheat are still there for the carp to find. And this is a grubbing mix. This is going to keep them grubbing around on the spot for quite a considerable amount of time. This is 300 grams worth of mix per bait spoon, but if you think of the number of individual food items in there, there's thousands and thousands of tiny little food items. The carp will pick through that, suck and blow through that, filter out all the bad, eat all the nutrition until it's all gone. I've been doing some suck tests on the spots that I've been feeding, and after 3 or 4 days of introducing a mix like this to the spot goes absolutely tap water clean. These fish are absolutely battering the granny out of these spots, and this is how I know that they're eating every single last grain of this stuff. There is nothing left. I know it's difficult for anglers to wrap their head around just how much carp can eat, but this is half a bucket of mix here, and I've been putting in at least double this every day in early March. We got 1.3 tons of carp here, and it's nothing to these fish. They are absolutely smashing it, all of it. An easier alternative, of course, is to just buy something called maize concassé, and that's just chopped up maize. It's maize that's been crushed effectively. You don't have to soak it, you can literally row it out and shovel it in. And I know that there's plenty of fisheries that use that approach and use it in massive quantities, hundreds of kilos per week going in, but I'd rather do a small quantity of higher quality with some cooked grain in there as well, right, because I think it does the fish more good. So after a few minutes, that pellet has soaked up most of the goodness there. Now all I'm going to do is row it out, and I put it out in clear defined spots where I know that the carp feed. It helps reinforce the message to the carp that, look, there is free food here and it's there consistently. Yeah, sometimes there's going to be a nasty surprise, but I've been fishing the same spots and baiting the same spots for many years, and these spots do not dry up, and they keep working because I keep on topping these spots up whenever I can.